A quick round of introduction. Dr. Vijaykar is the Director of Asia Operations at the Asia Pacific region with COPC Inc. He's a consultant, educator, and thought leader known across industries. At COPC, he helps clients drive exceptional customer experience, and he is known for his work in areas of service, innovation, decision making, and process improvement. He also serves as faculty in 3 top tier management schools across India and has written several papers in academic and industry journals. So, Dr. Vijaykar, without further ado, over to you, sir. You have the next 10 minutes. Thanks.
Thank you, Nisha. Let me just try to share my screen. Right, you're able to see me, yeah? Are you able to see the screen now? Yeah, okay. All right, Nisha, Nitin, thank you very much for this opportunity. And as always, it's a great pleasure to be associated with you. For people who have logged in and our viewers, listeners, very welcome. I'm excited to be here as part of the CXM 2021 event. The job that has been given to me is to just set the stage for a very exciting 2 hours that we are going to spend together. And what I would like to do is to take this opportunity to share a couple of things that we've seen in the industry. Last year has, of course, been a huge change for most of us, but just as a part of kind of a placeholder, I would like to share a couple of observations that we've had as part of our consulting engagements and assessments that we do in the industry. So one of the first things that I want to do is I want to share about 4 or 5 things that we've seen around us, and I think this will just confirm of what most of us have seen. One of the first things that we've seen is and the 2021 buzzword nowadays seems to be the K-shape recovery, isn't it? So we find that different industries seem to be coping differently to the pandemic and the post-pandemic. There are certain industries which seem to be doing pretty well. Tech, retail, software services, they seem to be recovering faster. But obviously some of the other industries, travel, food, hospitality, still kind of going through the lower part of the K, kind of the shape. So that's one of the things that I think all of us have seen, have observed. The other thing that we typically have seen, are you still able to see my screen? Nisha, can you please confirm?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yes.
Okay. So it's still the slides that you are seeing, right?
Correct.
Okay. The other thing that we seem to be seeing is that the business models that are kind of based on the physical interaction, right? They need to redefine, they need to repurpose themselves. So a couple of notes that I had written for myself was, for example, if you consider Uber or Airbnb, or there is this classic example of how Marriott and some of these hotels have now started to do laundry services, because that's something that they need to be able to provide. So business models which were kind of based on physical interaction, right, that completely had to redefine, repurpose themselves. The third change that we seem to be seeing, right, is in terms of the way the staffing is done, with almost 70% to 65 to 70% of most of us working from home, working remotely, working in distributed work spaces. And we started to see that is the new normal. It's not that we are going back to where we were, but we might have a hybrid kind of a scenario as the world progresses further. Which also gives you the opportunity to hire, in a different manner, have different, structures around it, and experiment and innovate with the hiring and training approaches that you would typically have, right? So that's another thing that we've started to see. The third thing, the fourth thing that we seem to be seeing is that, although resilience and long-term operational models were always the thing, but there seems to be a much higher focus because we've now realized that it is possible that suddenly the world can come to a standstill. So there is much more focus on building resilient models, building models that can sustain, have business continuity, and to a certain extent having things like, for example, a close to hub operation. So rather than having concentrated work forces in urban areas and some places, right, we've started to experiment with doing what they call some amount of a close to hub, some amount of gig economy, right? So all those models seem to have taken place. Companies have started to look at managing the costs better, which has always been the case, while innovating the ways that they can do business. And as the joke goes, right, the chief innovation officer award for 2020 kind of goes to the pandemic and to the coronavirus, because across the industries, including event management, including consulting, including training, including companies like COPC, right, we've kind of reinvented a lot of models for ourselves, virtual, kind of work, remote kind of work. So that, seems to be in place. This is general knowledge. I think all of us have been living, breathing this for the last 8 to 9 months. But the problem is it's easier said than done, isn't it? When I want to talk to you about this, right, I would like you to, as a takeaway, right, maybe if you want to just remember, think about, I would like you to think about 4 numbers, 4 statistics. The first one is 2. And what is that number? That is about the reported use of self-service in the last 1 year seems to have gone up by almost double, from a 40% to about 78%. This is based on some of the research that COPC conducts. So we conduct research each year called CXMB, Customer Experience Management Benchmarks. This research is available for anybody who is interested. You can reach out to me or Anup, who is also logged into this call. Please reach out and we'll be happy to share that with you. But what we find is that year on year, and now we have data for about 5 to 6 years, and what we find is that the reported use of self-service has suddenly taken a upward trend, turn in the last year because of all sorts of movement restrictions and challenges that we had for the last year. But now here is the concerning part. The concerning part is that when we were doing this research, we also asked the customers, would you prefer to use self-service in your next interaction, in your next transaction? And this is the challenge that we see. What we see is that there is an ongoing trend of customers preferring to actually use a human-assisted channels. So when we ask, would you prefer for your next interaction, would you prefer to have self-service? The number actually has gone up from a 48% to a 68%. This is kind of a dichotomy, isn't it? That customers are using self-service, but so what they are doing versus what they are feeling, there is a bit of a difference. And I think most of us know the reasons for it. There are different ways of putting the reasons in front. But let me kind of put 3 things in front of you. And these are the 2 other numbers that I would like you to kind of just look at. Right? So one is in terms of one of the big reasons that we typically see in terms of people trying to move away is the low resolution rates in some of our digital channels. The number is like about 69% in terms of resolution, whereas in human assisted channels, the number is around 60, 86 or something like that. So there's like a 17-point gap between human assisted channels versus self-service, self-assisted channels. Okay. The other thing that you will find is in terms of the lack of choice for using digital channels. Customers who are forced to use a digital channel and then they have a problem in getting their resolution are 7 times, not just twice, not just in terms of percentage, they are 7 times more unhappy. The dissatisfaction rises about 7 times if you are forcing customers to use a digital channel. And I think part of the reason is that there is an intrinsic need, right, for empathy during the customer experience interaction. Now, how do we kind of put that together? And I'll just take one last, slide to put this across to you. So, what are the typical strategies that we see within the industries that kind of are driving us for the future, right? One of them is obviously we see is to have that agility, right, in adopting digital channels, self-service as a new normal, as something that is already given. We also find that there is a decent amount of advancement in technology in terms of artificial intelligence, even things like natural language processing, which leads to conversational UI, making the customer experience more personalized, more seamless. We've also started to see that people have moved away from looking at simply contacts, calls, mails, chats, social media, to looking at what we call service journey, which is an end-to-end path that your customer takes across touch points, across channels, right? That helps you to link, right? What is happening backstage, what is happening front stage, right? And to a certain extent, that then leads to also to continue to drive innovation by identifying what are the failure demands that we have within this and try to reduce, right, some of those in order to improve our simplicity. So in general, right, we will typically find that that is what you would see. And the last kind of pattern or strategies that we see people looking at is to how we can humanize your customer experience and how can you build the what we call empathy or desire to resolve, right, if within the design of the customer experience itself, right at the start, right? Because all of us understand that it's not magic. It doesn't happen just like that, right? It needs to be kind of deployed. It needs to be done in the right manner. So I'm hoping that today's sessions that we are currently going to go through, right, and we have a great lineup. I have quite a lot of people that I know from the industry, very good friends, joining us today in terms of panel discussions and in terms of sharing their thoughts and ideas. So I'll be very keen to kind of sharing and sitting with you, listening to them, and hoping to learn from all of them, right? So again, once again, Nitin and Nisha, thank you for the opportunity. I'm here to take any questions in case anybody has them.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for that. And thank you for setting the stage for today's session. And it helps us, move in very nicely into the next session, which is the fireside chat. We'll be keeping questions to the, end of the session to make full use of all of the participants and all of the people here today.